Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It is a really wet and quite miserable Sunday morning here. It's still early, it's only just gone 8 o'clock in the morning. And why am I filming videos, do you ask? Because I've been up since 4:30 this morning. So I'm up early. I am doing my videos early, but yeah, I've washed my hair, but I haven't dried it because obviously my neighbours are probably still asleep, and I don't want to make too much racket on a Sunday morning. I'm trying to be very very kind and considerate to my neighbours, so I'm sure you can cope with seeing my wet hair because of that. But the main purpose of this video is actually to kick off something that I think is going to be a series of videos. So this is why the title referred to number one, and that we shall see how it goes. And I just plan to kind of do these sort of sporadically, not have like a set schedule for them. But the video that I published last week, which I've seen the comments on, but I haven't been able to react to them yet, which I'm planning to do later on today because I've just had a really hectic week. I talked about reading steampunk romance, and going to the young adult fiction section of my local Waterstones and feeling like I didn't belong there anymore, and how that made me feel. And it wasn't a sense of sadness, it just felt like a shift had happened. And I've been speaking to my sister Laura and our bestie Sarah, hey Sarah, about our memories of our teen years and childhood and such, and things that we have learned, things we would wish we had told our younger selves. And we started talking about all of these books and all of these stories and books and stories and such which made us who we are. And I thought, well, why don't I do a series of videos about that? I mean, I don't know if anyone will watch this, if anyone will be interested in this, but I thought if I spend one video per book or book series to talk about really kind of more in depth about the said book or stories, or just throw a focus on an author, so not particularly choose out one of their books but talk about a range of books that made an impact, or I can still vividly remember those stories even though I may not physically have the book anymore. I think that'd be quite interesting to do. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to watch this or if anyone would be interested in this, but I thought I'd just do it. So until I try it, I don't know, quoting Wicked, which I saw in Bristol not too long ago. So yeah, so this is what I'm doing. And the first story that came straight to my mind is not my favorite book. It's not my favorite story, but it is a story that I will never, ever let go of. It kind of lives in my soul, and that is the 10th Kingdom. Now, in case you have absolutely no idea what the heck this is, the 10th Kingdom was a drama that was created and broadcast by ABC in between February and March 2000. Here in the UK, it was shown on Sky One, and it's this epic adventure which kind of mixes modern story, modern life with fairy stories, but all these fairy stories kind of like combined in one world, or one kingdom, or should I say 9 kingdoms. So it follows the story of Virginia Lewis, who is a woman in her 20s, and she lives with her dad on the edge of Central Park in New York. She has a very ordinary life. She says she's permanently between boyfriends. Her mother left when she was 7. She lives with her dad, who works as a janitor, or a caretaker, or whatever title you deem appropriate for where you are and such, because I know different places say different things. But he looks after this building on the edge of Central Park, and that's how they can afford to live there, because obviously very, very expensive. And she wants to open a restaurant, but first of all she says she needs to find a man who's interested in food. But she's very much resigned herself to the fact that nothing interesting is ever going to happen to her. She doesn't. She may have wished that she could go off on adventures as a child, but that is completely gone from her mind. She has resigned herself that this is it. And one day when she's going to work at the restaurant in Central Park called the Grill on the Park, she crashes her bike into a dog. And thus her adventure begins, unknowingly that this dog is actually from a different kingdom and is actually a prince who has been turned into a dog. So in the other kingdoms, there are 9 kingdoms. The 10th kingdom is our world. There is a prince called Prince Wendell, and he is about to be crowned king of the 4th kingdom. The 4th kingdom was originally established as Snow White's kingdom, but he is her grandson, and obviously she is passed and such. And other kingdoms are owned by there's fairies, there's Red Riding Hood, there was Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, as I said, Snow White. There's so many different ones. But yeah, there's 9 of them in total. And he's about to inherit, but his evil stepmother, who has been in prison in the Snow White Memorial Prison for quite some time for horrible atrocities that she has done, has managed to escape, and she has a magical dog which, when it touches Wendell, they swap bodies, so she can use this dog in Prince Wendell's body to take over the throne, and she is going to kill the dog form which has Prince Wendell's soul in it, but he manages to get away and jumps through a travelling mirror which leads him to our world, aka the 10th kingdom. And it's all about Virginia, her dad Tony, and this dog, and trying to get back to normal. But also thrown into the mix is a guy called Wolf, who is half wolf. It's not just what he is in his genetics, he is literally called Wolf, who tags on for the ride. And they also meet a wild range of characters, as I said, characters who we know from various different fairy stories, and other characters who are completely new, like Acorn the dwarf, Clayface the goblin, the Tooth Fairy. I love there's a section, one kingdom, where it's like farmland, so we meet the Peeps, as in Little Bo Peep. All of these kind of fairy stories and songs and such from childhood all get thrown into the mix, and there some absolutely amazing stuff happens in this story. So that's kind of like the overarching thing. If you want to watch it, you can watch it for free on YouTube. I believe it's also available on Amazon Prime, and you can also get it on DVD and Blu-ray. And I've got the Blu-ray. And you can also buy the soundtrack. So yeah, really, I love Anne Dudley's score for this. And Anne Dudley has gone on to do, loads of great stuff. But I just want to plug her Poldark soundtrack. Oh, love it, love it. Anyway, so let's get back to this. So as I said, the 10th Kingdom came out. It was broadcast between February and March on ABC. I think it was broadcast maybe a couple of months later, possibly on Sky One, or it was done pretty much the same time. And what I remember distinctly is that the episode endings were at different points than on the DVD and Blu-ray. So let me explain. There were 7 episodes broadcast on ABC in America, and I think other territories as well. But in the UK, because of the amount of airtime plus adverts, I think it was about 8 or 9. And on the Blu-ray, it's 5 episodes. So, and just to get a perspective, it's about between, I think, 7.5 and 8.5 hours long, this. So it's a long stretch. So you can imagine that if you watched it originally on ABC, the end of the episodes did not exactly align to if you watched it on Sky One like I did. And then if you get the DVD or Blu-ray, the episodes again don't align because it's gone into 5 episodes. So yeah, confusing. But what happened basically was that I watched this. The makers of the 10th Kingdom had previously done Gulliver's Travels. They'd done the Alice in Wonderland, and I think the Odyssey. I might be wrong with that last one, but I'm pretty sure they did Alice in Wonderland and Gulliver's Travel, and they had done pretty well. And it showed at that time with the 2000s that technology was able to show us new things, do new things for TV events. So thus they decided to do something completely original, and the 10th Kingdom came about. And I remember starting to watch this program. I had never seen any of those other previous productions. I still haven't seen those. I've seen a bit of Gulliver's Travels, but I've not actually sat and watched it, and that was back when I was a teenager. So even the bits that I saw, I cannot remember what happened. What bits did I actually watch, you know? So yeah, it was a bit of an interesting production, that one. That I have seen it, but I haven't seen it. Yeah. So I started watching this program, and my God, I became like enthralled by it, because at that time I was I was 13, because I turned 14 in the June, so I was 13 at the time that it aired, and I was in awe of it. I think it was the first time that I had experienced being a fangirl of something. And it was one of these things where it felt like, you know, when you have like a big cultural, like pop culture event thing that happens in your life, and you get to ride that wave, and it's just so brilliant. It was like that for me, this program, but no one I knew had seen it. To this day, no one that I know has watched the 10th Kingdom, apart from online. But you know, the technology, able to communicate online, all that jazz, love it. But in person, in my life, no one I know has watched the 10th Kingdom. Funnily, since getting the Blu-ray, I took it over to my mum and dad's and started watching it with my mum, and she was like, "Oh my God, I remember this." It's like, so obviously I had watched it enough times for her to register me watching it and to watch some with me, and she started remembering, but that's it. So it kind of feels like this was a dominant pop culture moment in my teenage years, but no one I know has experienced it. So I feel it's, at the same time, it's quite isolating kind of feeling. But I absolutely fell in love. As I said, I think it was like the first time that I probably had that thing of the modern mixing with fantasy. I learned how sophisticated you can take a concept, something that we have known for so long, and put a new angle on it, put a twist on it. I mean, take a look at the fact that recently, because I've adored it for 20 years, and I recently got to see it for the first time, Wicked. That took elements, characters from The Wizard of Oz and flipped the perspective. And it is so cleverly done. I love stories like that. I kind of like origin stories of characters, and I know that there's a series of them, but that Disney have done books of like origin stories of like Captain Hook and Ursula and other, you know, evil characters throughout their stories, that people have raved about, but I've not read those. And I did read and review. It was about it. It was a take on the Mad Hatter, from Alice in Wonderland, and the author, I cannot remember for the life of me their name. I'm going to have to look back through my reviews to track that author's name down. But they have also done a series of different perspectives on stories. Like, I think there's one on Peter Pan, there's one on Alice in Wonderland, I think there's one about Ursula as well from The Little Mermaid. So they've also done kind of similar things. I think also I liked the fact that this world of the 10th Kingdom, even though, you know, stuff happens, you know, there's a multitude of things that happen. I don't want to say specifically until I get more in depth, and I will be. I'm going to say now I will be doing spoilers once I hit that in depth, but I will flag when that's about to happen. So even though there is a lot of, you know, wild things going on and fights and such, it feels very safe at the same time, and it still feels very safe even now, that I could watch this with my family, or I could just watch it on my own or whatever. There is something in my brain that went, yes, this is my thing, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. Now, the book came out in May of 2000, so a couple of months after it finished airing on ABC. Like I said, I can't remember exactly when it aired on Sky One, but I think it was either at the same time or not long after. But this popped up in my local bookshop, which at the time was Otter's, which got overtaken by Waterstones many years ago, and in Gloucester. And in the Gloucester store in Waterstones, to this day, when you step into the Gloucester Waterstones, to your left there is an extended section of like bookcases, and you have the big window. And back in the day when it was Otter's, that big window was a massive, it sat in front of that window, was a massive, long, red sofa that could sit like at least 6 people. It was massive. And I would run into Otter's. If you go to the back of the lower level where it's the children's section, that's where the fantasy stuff was kept at the time. And it was there on display. I would pick up a copy, I would run back to that sofa, I would sit down, and I would start reading. And this went on for weeks, every Saturday, as soon as we got into town, because every Saturday we went to town, me, my mum, my dad and my sister. And every week I'd be like, right, see you in a couple of hours, Mum, Dad, I'm just going to sit here and read this. And I would just sit and I would read. And then I go, okay, bye-bye 10th Kingdom for another week, and then I'd come back. Now, at the time, my pocket money, we did get pocket money, was £10 a month. And I think Mum and Dad must have taken sympathy on me that I kept on coming back, and I didn't have money to spend on it, and they bought it for me. And so this book has been on my bookcase for 24 years. And look, it's so faded and cracked, and all of it's just like falling apart, little bent, but I absolutely adore it. I absolutely adore it. Now, it's, funnily enough, it says on the back, this was $6.99 back in the day, back in 2000. You can buy it on paperback. Paperback currently it's about £13. So that tells you about inflation and over time, how much pricing has changed. You can't get it on Kindle or audiobook. It's only available on paperback. And Catherine Wesley is actually pseudonym for two authors. I don't have their names off the top of my head right now, I'm afraid. But if I find it, I will put that in the description. And yeah, it's based on screenplay by Simon Moore. Now, just so that you're aware, even though this is nearly identical to the finished product of the 10th Kingdom, there are some things that are different, because obviously there were some things that they decided to change before they started the production, but it was after the screenplay was handed over to these two authors to write the novelization. But also there is clearly copyright licensing issues, because there are a couple of songs which are referred to in the drama of the 10th Kingdom in the Swamp, and also in Little Lamb Village, which are different in the book. So, for example, the Little Lamb Village, Virginia, she has to sing a sheep song, and Baba Black Sheep is being done, and Little Bo Peep, and she's like, what's a sheep song? I don't know sheep song. And her dad says, oh, look, just pick any song and just put sheep words to it. So she ends up singing We Will Rock You with sheep references, which becomes We Will Shear You. But in the book, it's actually a Beatles song that she sings instead. So it's, things like that, where clearly copyright was a problem for them. So they decided to change the song. So there you are. So what I also want to shout out was that as a teenage girl, this I found so empowering. So although we've got, a lot of male characters in this, it is so beautiful and fascinating to me that the prominent characters are female. And I'm not just talking, obviously, Virginia, she's our lead, and obviously evil stepmother queen, she's our baddie. So therefore, we're covering all that. No, there's lots and lots of women in this. And even when Wolfe is explaining about the Night Kingdoms and how they came about, he explains that Snow White went on to be a absolutely glorious queen for many, many years, and her goodness and loyalty and everything was really beautiful to be seen. And she is one of 5 women who were seen as the greatest rulers of all time, and 5 of them established the 9 kingdoms together. And it's just like, wow, women are so respected in the lands of the 9 kingdoms. Yes, okay, there are some dodgy female characters out there, I am not going to lie, but you've also got a range of characters. You have got women who, as I said, like Evil Queen, who have gone to the bad side. We have got good, honest people, such as the people who are in the Kissing Town, in Little Lamb Village, etc. You've got Virginia, obviously. You've got kind of flirty teenagers who don't understand the world and learn from the consequences of their actions, like the Bo Peep, Sally Peep. I love the fact that we get to see Snow White, we get Cinderella, we get to see Riding Hood. All of these really strong, beautiful women who are celebrated throughout the 10 kingdoms. The men hardly get mentioned whatsoever, apart from Wendell, because obviously he's about to be crowned king. And the only other man, male, should I say, of significance, is the Troll King. who decides to wage war at one point in this. And yeah, well, he's got two sons as well and a daughter, and his two sons are, you know, characters that are quite prominent in this as well, and the daughter. But because I'm talking about male characters specific, that's why I mentioned them first. But that's really it. It's the women who are the most interesting characters to me. Also, Wolf is just absolutely incredible for a representation of a male character, love interest, and I'm now delving into the spoiler areas, everyone, so here we go. He is a wonderful character. Now, at first, okay, his wolf side, Wolf is half wolf, so he very much he looks like a man. He has a tail, though. That's the only physical difference, and his eyes flash yellow from time to time. But he mainly, he howls at the moon. He once a month, he gets very irrational and he lashes out because of the full moon, etc. So he has these particular tendencies. He's really good with his scent. He loves food. So he's perfect for Virginia. But what also is that as soon as he meets Virginia, he scares the living crap out of her, first of all, because of what he does with her grandmother. And he realizes, oh my God, this girl is incredible, but she doesn't like me. So what can I do? And he goes to therapy. He starts reading a massive collection of books to better himself. He learns from his actions. He apologizes for anything he's ever done. He tells her the most beautiful things that you can imagine. And yes, he fucks up, but he recognizes that he fucks up and he apologizes for it. And it's like, my God, he was so good as a love interest lead, especially that thing of doing better, learning that there are things you can improve about yourself. Yes, okay, therapy is a self-help sections of I think bookshops in America, it's quite significantly large compared to here in the UK and such. But the fact that he straight away has that forthright thing of going, I need to understand what I've done wrong and what I need to do to make things right. And he straight away goes to therapy to figure that out. And he constantly is reading his books and he's doing these affirmations and such. And it's just absolutely wonderful. I adore Scott Cohen, not Seth Cohen, sorry, got the name wrong. Seth Cohen is a character from the OC. I'm sure there's also a lot of people called Seth Cohen in the world, but the actor is Scott Cohen. Scott Cohen's portrayal of Wolf is just beautiful. I love it so much. When it comes to things that he says to Virginia, I love the fact that he's a love interest who is not afraid to say to her face what she needs to hear, even though she's afraid to hear it. So, for example, there is a part where Virginia comes in contact with the Troll King's magical shoes, and these magical shoes make you invisible. And she is just attracted to them so much. She kind of gets a bit addicted to them. She's constantly holding them and like stroking them. And it comes to a point where Wolf, literally they're in a boat, and Wolf rips the shoes out of her arms and throws them in the water. And she's screaming at him like, why did you do that to my shoes? How could you do that? And he says, magic can be an amazing thing, but it's also highly addictive. And she's so confused and says, well, I don't understand. Why is it that you could resist them and I couldn't? And he just looks at her straight in the eye and just says, because you've got an overwhelming desire to be invisible, and walks away. And it's just like, whoa, okay. And there's some other things like where he talks to her about, because they've been separated for a while, they come back together, and she asks him, how did you find us after all these weeks? And he says, oh, I picked up your scent a few weeks ago and I've been following you, I've been tracking you. And she was like, well, how could you do that? We were in a mountain. And he says to her, I could follow your scent across time itself. Just, I remember the teenage me going, oh my God, that is so sweet. Okay, yes, he can be a bit problematic at times, but he's such a wonderful character. I adore Wolf so much. I always have. I think he's just brilliant. Now, one character who I do like, but at the same time he does kind of irritate me, is her dad, Tony. But there is a reason for this, which is what I'm about to go into. So Tony very much acts but doesn't think. So he likes the thought of not having to work, having money to just be able to live and have fun and do what he wants to do. But he always puts kind of like himself first. But I know fans of the 10th Kingdom who possibly sees this and they're going, ah, la, 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 but he does it. Yeah, I know what you're about to say. And I totally hear you. He has raised Virginia by himself since she was 7 years old. So, you know, he's always looked after her, always made sure she's fed and everything. But very much you can feel from the beginning that she looks after him. And it's that thing of who's the parent, who's the child. There's the, issue. He is a lovely guy. And he really does love his daughter and everything, but there are some choices that he has made in his life, which I think it's fair to say he probably regrets. And I think also that Virginia has developed her issues, which she could do with therapy to deal with because of him and his choices. And there is this absolutely amazing sequence where Virginia has fallen asleep and she has this terrible nightmare, and she's an adult and she's got a basket and she's walking through the woods and she's got a crown and she looks like a princess and she's using a mobile phone or a cell phone if you're in America, and she calls her dad who's on the throne and he's got the dog and he's on a crown and the dog prince is there with a crown on his head, and he was like, who's going to fix me dinner? Where are you going? And she said, oh, I'm running away. And then you see her basket is full of the therapy books. And he's going, well, who's going to fix me dinner? And I've got a son here that he's looking after. And she screams down the phone, well, I'm so glad you've got a son now. That will make you happy. And throws the phone and it shatters against a tree trunk. And it's like, wow, the psychology aspects of this book, of this story and of this book are so interesting, and I love that balance. And like, even there's a conversation that she has with Wolf at one point where she's talking about her mum, and she said that they just split up. I mean, what's the big deal? Don't people split up here in the Nine Kingdoms? And Wolf's like, well, no, we either live happy ever after or we get killed by horrible curses. It's the way of the world. And then he says, you may not get hurt, because she's talking about, going into relationships and about the prospects of getting hurt and that. And so he says, you may not get hurt, but you won't get loved either. And it's like, oh, that hits hard. That hits hard. So I love the whole psychological impacts of things that happen when you're young on your adult life. And the fact that if you think about fairy stories, there is a lot of stuff that happens to characters in their childhoods. And they don't seem to be that affected by it. So to have this, again, the modern brought into the fairy story and flip it on its head, it's just brilliant that this story does that. Now we're going into the major spoiler territories here. So this is the point where, if you don't know, go watch the 10th Kingdom or read the book and then come back to this, because this is the whammy part. As a teenager, I was fucking floored when it got revealed that the Queen The evil queen is Virginia's mother. I was like, where the hell did that come from? And then for us to get flashbacks to show that her mother basically kind of had a psychological breakdown, tried to murder Virginia, but Virginia doesn't remember this because her mind her mind decided to protect itself and blocked it out, basically. Again, the psychology related stuff. So she tried to murder Virginia. She ran into Central Park, just really confused, upset. And then the traveling mirror opened up in front of her, and Snow White's evil stepmother was on the other side and beckoned her to come. And so her mum went through the traveling mirror and took on the work of Snow White's stepmother, the evil queen, in her last dying years, and basically became this new person who she doesn't remember anything about her life in our world, aka the 10th Kingdom, at all. And to have that as a concept when I was a teenager absolutely blew my mind. Now, maybe as an adult, if I had seen this, I might have predicted that that was probably a possibility. But yeah, when I was young, that was just overwhelmingly shocking to me. I adore the fact that also that Virginia, when she's confronting her mother, for the first time properly, and her mum is starting to realize who Virginia is, I love the fact that Virginia slaps her. Now, you're probably wondering, what the fuck? Why would I say that? Her mother says to her, after realizing who she is, putting her mask back on, because her mask slipped for a moment, going, oh my God, that's not me. When she puts that mask back on, she says to Virginia, you were never wanted, you should have been killed at birth. And Virginia just slaps her across the face, and I'm like, yes, queen, yes. I loved the fact that Virginia slapped her. There is also a little more that gets revealed by Tony, that she was getting slowly sicker and sick. It'd been going on for some time, but yeah, if he hadn't arrived home when he did, she would have died. And it was such a profound thing. So maybe that's for his psychological thing. That's why he wants to keep Virginia where she is. He wants to protect her. See, I love so much this story has got such deep psychological aspects to it. And when we come to the end of the book, end of the story, end of the book, we get Virginia seeing the world in a completely new way. And it's so wonderful that she's still the girl, but she's no longer lost in the forest. She's no longer confused. She now understands things that she didn't understand before. Yes, her path is still unclear, but she's not lost anymore. And that is so incredible. And to have a message like that it's okay to be lost, it's okay to still have things that are unclear and sort of be able to see your way. It's okay to see your way entirely from the beginning. Everyone is unique, everyone has their own journey. The important thing is to know who you are and be proud of who you are. We all have struggles, we all have strengths. And to have this built into a fantasy story where, as I said, women are the key factors, are the key characters, it was just a massive breath of fresh air for me. A story that I never saw coming, a story that I never knew would be possible, and a story that just sits in my heart and my soul. And yeah, it has meant the world to me, and I cannot let this go. 24 years in the next couple of months or something, I will have had this on my bookcase. It's never going to leave my bookcase. I can't let this go. It is just incredible story. Sadly, at the end of the drama and at the end of the book, it is mentioned that this is the end of the first book of the 10th Kingdom. And the second book never happened. They never made another series. At the time, I think it was one of the most expensive series that ABC had ever made. And even though it did okay, it didn't do well enough in order to get a sequel. But the fandom still exists after 24 years. It's still there. There are fans who still want it to come back, including me. I would love to be able to go back into the 10th Kingdom and the 10 Kingdoms, shall I say, not the 10th Kingdom, because the 10th Kingdom is our world. But as the drama as a whole, I'd love to go back. I love the fact there are so many different characters. I just realised before I said I was going to talk about the trolls, and I haven't talked about the trolls. So there were 3 troll siblings, Bluebell, Blabberwort and Burley, and they are very much like the Three Stooges. They're the comic relief of the drama throughout, but they are absolutely exquisite. I love all of them so much. They're fantastic. But what I also love is the fact that this series is so diverse, and there's so many things that you encounter about different people who stereotype. You think, oh, they're going to be this way, and they're not. Let's look at the trolls. I love the fact that the trolls, you think like, like caves and stuff like this. Do they live in caves and that? No, they live in a castle. Do they have a thing for particular niceties? Yes, but not niceties that you would think. They are obsessed with shoes. They have an overarching obsession with shoes, and the fact that they go to Virginia and Tony's a flat or apartment, shall I say, at one point in the story, and they are so horrified that their shoes are scuffed and neglected. It's brilliant. You see them like trying on Virginia's high heels and such. Anything to do with leather. There's one point where they decide to take some drugs. They do. They take I think it's from the fairies. I can't remember the exact name for it, but yeah. One of them says, last time I took it, I saw fairies for 3 days, and Burley then says, roll us up a big one, it's going to be a long night. And they start rolling it like they're going to smoke it, and it's like, there's sensors like that get through. Holy shit, that is insane that we've got drug taking trolls who are really into shoes and armor, running around trying to run after a dog. It's just, they are so brilliant. And when they come to the 10th Kingdom, they come across a tape player, a cassette player, proper box stereo that people used to carry around before, phones and CD players and that were just like a norm and everything. And it starts playing, and it's the Bee Gees, and they get obsessed with the Bee Gees and start singing their songs constantly. It is so fantastic. I love them so much. But what you're saying about representation as well, we have got people of all different shapes, sizes, colours throughout all of this drama, and I love the fact that especially like we have got a curvy woman playing Snow White. We have got who else have we got? Yeah, we've got two of the trolls are people of color. The fact that their father is a is white, is troll, and one of the three that is also white, but the other two are of color. Just things like that, little things like that are brilliant. We have also got people with various disabilities. I love the fact that there are a lot of British actors in this, and some of them, like Clayface the Goblin. I love the fact that Clayface the Goblin is a northerner with his, you know, at times he's kind of holding it back a bit. I know the actor, but I can't think his name off the top of my head right now. I'm gonna have to put that in. But he was in Our Vidas Ein Pair. But there are times where it slips and you can really hear his northern accent. But if you think about it, different parts of the kingdom are going to have different accents. Like the Peeps and that in Little Lamb Village, they all have country accents. They all have southwestern of Southwest England kind of accents, as it were. It's brilliant. I love it so much. So it's not just representation of people of, you know, of color, etc., and of body types, but also of accents and different regions, etc. It's just the fact that this is so inclusive to everyone. Now, possibly, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that if it was made now, there would be aspects of it that would not get through. So, for example, like the drug stuff, we do have a very, very odd scene where Wolf is actually with Virginia up a beanstalk, and his tail is out, and he invites Virginia to stroke it, which even as a teenager I thought was very weird. And when I got the Blu-ray, I was watching with my mum and dad, and mum and dad kind of looked at me and went, "You watched this as a teenager?" I went, "Oh yeah, this scene has always been a bit weird." That would not get through. We have implied sex as well, which probably might get through because you don't actually see anything, but possibly would be an issue. There probably would be more, you know, range of diversity and such now than there is. But as I said, there's a lot of inclusivity in multiple different ways. I love the fact that Warwick Davis is in it as Acorn the dwarf. I think he's brilliant. I just, yeah, there's so much too, but there is so much now that I think wouldn't necessarily get through. And just to put it in perspective also, if you got the original like VHS tapes, I think they're PG. It's a 15 now. It is a 15 certificate series now. Not surprising, because we also get to see someone who attempts to hang themselves. We see people getting their throats slashed. We see, war being raged. We see poisonings. There is some dark shit that happens in this drama. So I'm not surprised it's now a 15, but back in the day, it was a PG. So yeah, interesting. But as I said, there is something about this story that just lives in my soul. I cannot escape it. I cannot leave it behind. I cannot get rid of this book off my bookshelf. It is just wonderful. And I have so many memories reading this over and over and over again, including when in the summer of 2000 I had to have my appendix out. And I remember distinctly coming round from the operation, and I wasn't very well at all, and I wanted to read straight away because reading always made me feel better, but I couldn't hold a book. I was just so tired and everything, but I needed something. I needed a story, and my dad, knowing that, just picked it up. I didn't have to ask him. He just picked it up and he just started reading it aloud. And I listened to Wendell once she's been transformed into a dog, running through Snow White Memorial Prison, being followed by the trolls. I distinctly remember my dad doing that and his voices of the trolls, you know, that kind of thing. There was just something about this story that means the world to me. And you know, and as I said, it's a story that not many people know, really. No one in my sphere of my life has read it or watched it. But I don't mind that, because it makes it even more special to me. If that sounds very weird, I know, possibly, but it feels like it's my precious jewel, my precious gem that lives in my heart, my soul, and I love it so much. I will never let it go. Now, as I said, you can get the DVD, you can get the Blu-ray of 10th Kingdom. This also comes with the half-hour making of, which is also available on YouTube, split over a couple of videos. But this cast is just insane, right? So we have Anne Margaret, Scott Cohen, Rutger Hauer, John Larroquette, Cameron Mayheim, Ed O'Neill, Diane Wiest, Kimberly Williams as some of the cast. Some of that. They only cover some of the cast. My God, this show is just brilliant. I adore it so much. So please, if you haven't seen it, look it up. As I said, it's available for free here on YouTube and also I think on Amazon Prime. But you can also get the DVD and Blu-ray, as I said, and the music, and you can buy the paperback book as well. But as I said, the paperback book, there's some slight differences simply because of they changed stuff for XYZ. But I just adore this so much that it is a story that will never, ever leave my heart, my soul, my bookcase. And so I wanted to share it with you. So I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, this is probably like the first of a series, but as and when I'll be continuing this series, we shall see. It might just be very sporadic. I don't know. It might end up being once a week. I don't know. We shall see. But I hope you enjoyed my more in-depth talk about the 10th Kingdom. I will indicate, obviously, that there's going to be spoilers in the description and the title, even though I didn't mention that at the beginning. So I will make sure that is done. And yeah. I hope you enjoyed this. So until next time, where I figure out which book or series or author I'll be shining a light on, I'll see you later. Bye.